thank you for your patience. I'll declare the meeting open at 4:09 and welcome everyone here today. The Shire of Harvey acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities and their cultures and to the elders both past and present. Agenda briefing sessions are used to inform elected members on the items of business to be presented and discussed at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. Agenda briefing sessions are open to members of the public, and a member of the public may request to present a deputation of the elected members relating to an item on the agenda. Deputations are received on the same evening as the agenda briefing session and at the commencement of the meeting. No decisions are made at agenda briefing sessions, although elected members may request additional information or may request alternative wording for motions to be prepared for possible consideration at the forthcoming council meeting. Any statement or insinuation of approval regarding any planning or development application made during an agenda briefing session is not to be taken as notice of approval from the Shire. The Shire advises that anyone who has an application lodged with the Shire must obtain and should only rely on written confirmation of the outcome of the application and any conditions attached to the decision made by council regarding the application. Item 2, record of apologies and leave of absence. Neil. Item 3, declarations of members and officers of personal interest. Councillor Dickinson.
I'd like to declare impartiality for item 5.3.3 relative to my addition for joining land office. Thank you.
Councillor Mother.
Thanks, President. Item 5.2.1 proposed road developments. The promenade, I might have some comments on the promenade and maybe
financial interest in item 5.3.1 application for development approval industry license. My employer is involved in extracting industry licenses and one. That's the way. So therefore declare financial interest in the discussions.
Councillor Jackson.
In relation to 5.5.2 to the local tourism development strategy, I have a financial interest as I have a business, a tourism business registered in the Shire of Harvey, and I will chamber while that discussion happens. 5.5.4, an impartiality interest as I have a tourism business. I feel there may be a section of conflict and I will stay in chamber.
Councillor Campbell.
I declare an impartiality interest with regard to item 5.3.1. I disclose that Dr. Lord, who does not reside with me, is an employee with NGN Bulk as a truck driver. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on this matter may be affected. I declare that I will remain in the chamber and consider the matter on its merits. I also declare an impartiality interest in regard to item 5.5.3, the youth strategy. I disclose that I am the current chairperson of Lot 208 Youth Board of Management and the council delegate for Lot 208 Youth. I'll remain in the chambers and consider this matter on its merits.
I declare interest in 5.5.3, the youth strategy, as I am the council delegate on Lot 208. I'll stay in the chamber and
Councillor
Thank you, Mr. President. I declare a financial interest in item 5.3.1, the extractive industry licence. I represent the Geological family in this matter and made the application as it's my job as foreign manager for the Geological family. Because of that, I'll declare a conflict of interest and I'll leave the chamber.
Okay, item 4, education. We will move highly short, the item 5.3.2, to give your education first, and then followed by Carol Lloyd, Professor Seminole, and Gareth Reid. So, picking up one will go one after the other. So, over to you, Todd. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President, councillors and staff. My name is Kylie Shaw. I'm here on behalf of the Finance Basket Proprietary Limited in relation to the Trendale South Structure Plan application. As outlined in the agenda, the Structure Plan application 2 amends proposes to amend the structure plan with the main changes being removal of the local centre site and the proposed changes to the highways and roads barrier. Shire officers have supported the removal of the local centre site as proper planning for the area, with the Trendale Shopping Centre to the north and Eaton Fair to the south. Professional commercial assessment suggests this site will be economically unviable. There are already local centre sites identified in the area that have not been developed for this reason. However, officers have recommended to council not to approve the modification in relation to allowing an acoustic wall rather than an earth pump for the purposes of noise and visual mitigation from forest fire. The proposed acoustic wall achieves its stated purpose: noise control and visual impact from forest highways. There are no technical deficiencies with the proposal, and it is supported by Main Roads Geological. We are also proposing to install similar walls for parts of the board alignment, including at Kingston Estate to the north of this site. The Trendale South development is continuing to successfully provide relatively low-cost home sites for families. So a landscape bundle were to be built, it would be approximately 1 kilometre long along Forest Highway. It would occupy about 2.55 hectares of land and require a significant amount of fuel, being 30 metres cubed for every million metre of the bundle. It would also require a fence to Main Road standards along the length of the bundle. By allowing an acoustic wall rather than a bundle, it will allow for more efficient and environmentally sustainable use of the residential land. The wall creates a secure division from the highway without the need for an additional fence, while providing a vertical barrier for safety considerations. The wall panels are manufactured in Western Australia with the surfacing a moulded feature of stone finish on both sides. They are structurally engineered and have been designed for durability and a consistent quality. Installation is undertaken by specialist installers to ensure the product provides the higher structural strength and standards. Anti-graffiti coating can be applied if necessary, although that has not been an ongoing issue in this area. A limestone maintenance track will be on the highway side to provide accessibility for maintenance, should it be required. The increased maintenance cost burden on the wall compared to an earth fund has not been justified by officers, and I will question if a cost analysis to support the assumptions has been undertaken. A 1 kilometre long engineered structural wall should not have any maintenance issues for decades, especially when compared to a 1 kilometre long landscape fund, which will require regular maintenance and perpetuity by the Shire. With regard to weed control, pruning, mulching, bushfire road management, erosion, irrigation, unauthorised access control repairs. The visual impact to future residents is not considered an issue. The wall will be built during subdivision work together with additional lots, the adjacent lots, and buyers will see what they're buying to make an informed decision whether they like it or they don't. Low view landscaping and vegetation drainage swale will be provided between the walls and local subdivision road. The visual impact when viewed from the highway is negligible, given the existing screening vegetation in place over most of the length of the wall, and the setback of the vegetation, which is the setback from the wall to the highway carriageway is approximately 30 metres. Noise walls have become an accepted element of the major highways for residential areas and are planned to be constructed elsewhere in the shire as part of the wall, including in Kingston. An existing wall of similar construction has been in place at Evolve and Eton in the Shire of Gardner for over 3 years without the need for maintenance or any issues from surrounding residents. Sections of Quanana Freeway on the way to Perth have been used for similar walls for many years as acoustic barrier. The wall can form a continuous barrier by joining to the existing bund at Trendale. This can be achieved by digging into the tapered end of the bund, installing the walls, and reinstating the bund to match the height. Fire risk management of the third bund will be required ongoing management of the vegetation of the shire, followed by handover from a developer to maintain the bell levels in the area. I respectfully request council support the use of the existing walls as outlined in the Trendale South Structure Plan modification documentation, and subsequently make a recommendation to the West Australian Planning Commission. Thank you.
Any questions?
Not a question, but I think I need to defer partiality interest in this, but you guys probably can speak on this. I'm married to my cousin, so I defer partiality now.
Okay, Carol, you come up.
Good afternoon to all. My name is Carol Bowen, and I'm known to quite a few of you. Some of you I've spoken with over the years, others I've actually worked side by side as well. I was a resident in Birmingham from 2005 to 2015, and I was the convener of the Birmingham Coast Guard Mining Group until 2015. And then in 2015-16, with the Shire of Harvey, I was part of the stakeholder group for the coastal hazard action and erosion planning. So allow me to work on the coastal geomorphology of the site, as detailed in coastal hazard action planning, stated that the actual site we're speaking of, geomorphology, is susceptible to inundation. Coastal inundation report from Damara, the coastal reporting, stated that coastal inundation threats to agricultural land and building up road access cannot be avoided, as the coastal lowland is continuous between national estuary and Lake Preston. The fixed spatial nature of the agricultural land also means that strategy of retreat is not possible. The land is limited because it's untenable, become untenable. With coastal flooding, not be able to use the, be untenable due to coastal flooding. Excuse me, I'm very nervous. I apologize. Consequently, management strategies are to be considered, which are accommodation and contraction in these areas of flooding. The area of Biddingup's urban development is constrained. It's sandwiched between an eroding coastline to the west and an area that's susceptible to inundation, floodplain, that is never to be developed. And that's the area of the site, current discussion site. The alluvial floodplain there in the wetlands is rural, so they're permeable soils. The pastures act as a carbon sink, and everything's functioning perfectly. Conversely, a 26 hectare of excavation will cause disturbance of the soil profile, removal of the underlying sedimentary limestone, resulting in freshwater recharge. This disrupts the geomorphic wetlands connectivity and the hydrological function across the whole of the landscape, not just the area of extraction, across the landscape. The department officers, and you probably all realise I've spoken to many, probably heard from them all, and coastal engineers, have commented that the area will become wetland. Once you remove that underlying limestone, over time, as sediment washes down, you'll never retain the pastures as they are at the moment. You will end up with depression. Simon's probably aware of that fact, because we all are. We've got a road getting up that constantly goes like this. So that's exactly what will occur on this particular site. It'll become mosquitoes. I'm not too sure if that's being considered or even discussed as to the maintenance and the controls that will be required for the traffic. And this comment's not only coming from myself, but it's also left on Catherine Castle. So the area has a heritage homestead, which is 125 metres from the area of site works. Those site operations, which would be the removal of limestone and heavy haulage, are likely to impact foundation of that registered heritage listed homestead. So the Shire needs to be transparent and fully accountable in this case. The foundations must be surveyed and the integrity tested. The integrity of those foundations need to be tested. This is an ethical issue. And I'm not too sure if the Shire discussed the homestead. People can comment and say that's already signed for a document and indicate that we're perfectly happy with whatever happens, they'll deal with it. But as time progresses with the track, that's not necessarily the case. I don't think the councillors here would like to think that something maintenance. Also, the litigation pays for it once the quarry is opened up and they end up with structural problems. The land, the extractive site, is owned by the patents, who own quite a few of those lots through there. The land is actually worth more to the patents if it was left undisturbed. There's potential for the Parkfield drain to be protected, and also the longer up alluvial plan would be incorporated into the National Regional Park. That has been a discussion. Believe me, it's not, the seeds were planted when we within the Shire's office, the discussion with them, and I spoke to Bill and said that I would take this further and speak to many different departments as to what the opportunity was for extending the regional park. In that situation, that would incorporate the geo-heritage attributes, which are also supported, and the land part of heritage trade. Part of it is a great tourism asset to the Shire. The tourism potential is not only the Shire's economy, but the regional economy. Leisure Springville Trail has potential to include the Spring Homestead, and I want that is something that the councillors consider. I'm saying a bit of lateral thinking as to other alternatives. From evaluation, you've probably got better ideas of tourism evaluation than I do. That was what I said to Bill initially. I wouldn't know what I mean tourism dollars, but from the equation, I'll say that $1 of extracting raw materials, you could actually make $10 in tourism benefits from tourism. They're far reaching. Excuse me. The tourism potential for Leisure Vineyard has far greater benefits from sustainable tourism income than from short-term gain for your pocket from the extractive industry. It would secure the Shire's economy for the future with ecotourism. There's investment potential there when you think of development of the Mermaid Lake shores. The extra benefits for the Lake shores development are enormous, massive. It actually gives value to that land. Excuse me. The investment region also, I'm asking for a little bit of perhaps the Shire sitting down to think about the forward planning of this as to whether the extractive industry is the best way to go. If the extractive industry was approved on that land, there would be no chance of considering extending the regional park to cover that area of the homestead and also that section up to the ground. So my recommendation, I should say our recommendation, is that the councils reject this proposal and request an EPA referral. The state's planning policy 2.5 for rural planning states that raw material that's located within a significant area of biodiversity values requires referral under the EPA Act. We don't know how this has been done. Annie Reardon, CEO, I know would need to resolve this if she was to refuse the application. You've got the card. You have to refuse the application subject to reason of land suitability. Hopefully, we might provide that reason. My position is that the site is unsuitable for extractive industry due to the flood risk. The proposed industry cannot accommodate nor contract from the flood-prone area. Therefore, we maintain extractive industry in this location is inconsistent with Shire's local planning strategy of 2020. And that is strategy point 312.11, which addresses your flood-prone areas. Thank you. Are there any questions? And I didn't notice I have the crown with me and I couldn't talk to you the plate in because it's like talking the mouth of a mum. So I don't even notice my own extractive side. I appreciate it.
Professor, do you want to do your presentation now?
Good afternoon. My name is Professor Dick Simcoe. Thank you for the opportunity to present this information today. to take on a journey of the geo-heritage values of this area. Now, for those who don't know what geo-heritage is, I'll go to that next slide. I can't. Credentials, I says credential. That's what they refer to me. These are my credentials. Professor at 2 universities. I'm on the editorial board for 2 international journals that deal with geo-heritage and coastal research. I've got 160 quality scientific books and papers. I spent a long time in Western Australia, been here for 50 years, been researching it. And I don't know if I'll ask the council, can you read that literally in that? But I can move the next slide. Geo-heritage. What geo-heritage is the legacy of the heritage of the Earth. We have an Earth that is 4.5 billion years old and has a history. And the geology, that is igneous rock, sedimentary rock, metamorphic rock, fossils, minerals, hydrology, all these aspects of the Earth tell a story of the Earth, and it's our home. Next slide. This is how we subdivide geo-heritage as an endeavour. There are types of geo-heritage, whether it's type locations, where there's a cliff that shows for example, the extinction of the dinosaurs with the iridium layer coming up for a meteorite strike. That cliff in Italy, in Umbria, is of heritage value. It's a story about what's happened to the Earth. Or it might be a type location of a given formation. In Western Australia, for example, we have a limestone called the Tamara limestone. If somebody comes from overseas or interstate and says, what is the Tamara limestone? We take them to a cliff and says, this is our example of the Tamara limestone. It's the type location. The equivalent of having a type specimen in the museum of an animal or plant. You go to the herbarium and say, I want to see what the tulip is. What is a tulip? And a shoot comes out with the tulip there, and you can look at it and say, that's it, that's the standard. Well, in geology, we have standards like that, but they're in the field. Sometimes they're in the museum because they're minerals or fossils, but often they're in the field, and type reference locations in that first column. Then there is cultural values of geo-heritage. For example, the first time the Earth was recognised as going through revolutions of folding and faulting and shearing and then sedimentation. This history is represented by what's called an unconformity. Hubble, a couple of hundred years ago, recognised it first at Sycamore Point, Scotland, and that location has become a classic location. It's the equivalent, metaphorically, to the original apple tree where the apple fell on Newton's head is still present at the university, and it's preserved as an iconic example of how gravity was first sorted out. Well, that's a cultural aspect to geo-heritage. The next is examples of history, well-preserved history. Geological history is, for example, well-preserved in the Grand Canyon in America, where there's tens and tens of metres of rocks layered, showing changes from deltas to tidal flats to beaches and so forth. You can reconstruct the history. The next section is modern examples of what you see in the rocks. We have modern dunes, modern lakes, modern tidal flats, and these provide you with an example of what's happening, how materials are preserved. Volcanoes example is that, modern processes. The horizontal row underneath that shows you the scale which we did with the heritage. It goes from the large scale, so the big mountains, right down to the crystal scale. And the last, the blue row, is that geo-heritage can be classified as to its significance, whether it's internationally significant or locally significant, with grades in between. Next slide. This is some examples of things that are of geo-heritage significance. In Calvary, at Calvary, the top left-hand corner is this rippled sandstone. It's about 400 million years old. It was once a tidal flat. It was rippled by the tides, and across that rippled surface, an animal crawled and left its tracks. To the right of that, there's the most ancient of animals in the Ediacaran. It used to be thought that the Cambrian brought in life, but this is a pre-Cambrian fossil. 550 to 600 meters old, and it's what's called the Ediacara fauna, jellyfish-like features. To the right of that is a tourmaline crystal, that's part of Geo-heritage, it's a small scale. Below that, I have it described to you, it's a speckle, it's a garnet, and the garnet was rotating as the layer was in the shearing, and the garnet was rotating. As it rotated, it was growing. And it was growing, it was including like a snowball material that was around it. And you can see the spiral growth, like a snowball growing, including all the material that was around it progressively. On the left, giant crystals of gypsum. You can see the man scale growing in Mexico, a major heritage feature. And on the bottom right-hand corner, our famous zircon crystal from Western Australia. It's a sand grain, black sand grain, that is the oldest crystal on Earth. It's at Jack Hills. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old, but that crystal is 4.45, 50 million years short of the old old plate of the Earth. And it's the oldest crystal recognized on Earth, and it has great heritage value. The site where it comes from is of heritage value. It's our story. Next slide. Out of all the things that I've heard, I've just picked on volcanoes. Can we go back 2 slides? Back to this, no one, back one. There. You saw the bold blue. Of all the features that are geological in that second paragraph, they're in bold and blue. I'm only focusing on the fossils, the minerals, and igneous rocks. And all the rest I'm not going to do. 2 slides forward. Next one. Volcanoes. Just on their own. There's a Devil's Tower, which is that column structure that you see on the middle right. In Arizona. Bottom right-hand corner, orbicular granite from Western Australia, like onion skin layering as the granite consolidated to produce this onion-like structure, concentric layers. And up in the Aleutian Islands, west of Alaska, an active volcano. These are heritage features. Next slide. Now, just focusing for a moment on the Jack Hills zircon. This is the oldest crystal on Earth. It has heritage value for all of humanity. It occurs at Jack Hills, that's where the map is beneath it. The significance of it, not only the oldest crystal, but when it was found in the 1980s, there wasn't enough technology around to study it properly and thoroughly. And as life went on from 1980 to now, technology improved. We've got the shrimp, which is the high resolution microscope to do probing and determine age and do microanalysis of chemistry. And there's other features about that. As technology improved, these crystals were studied more thoroughly. This is the principle of geo-heritage. If you preserve something and leave it alone, the next generation improves its technology, improves its understanding, more information comes from around the world, and you begin to understand what you're studying better and better and better. So I started geology about 60 years ago. I've been in Western Australia 50 years. And things that I studied way back, I've come to understand better with better technology and improved our knowledge. And that's the principle of when you leave things in preservation state, that you're able to come back and give the next generation go further with it to build on. And this crystal from the 1980s, 1980 itself, has advanced the understanding of the Earth, has advanced the understanding of how crystals grow. You see the yellow and the blue is zoning. It's like it's got onion layering in the blue. And for example, this crystal showed that where everybody thought the Earth was magnetic when it started, there's more magnet around the orbiting around the sun. This is showing that 50 million years after the Earth formed, there were mountains and streams, rivers, and these black crystals and little sand grains were being eroded out of the mountains and deposited, so showing the Earth was cold. Now, that will not be possible if you did not study it in detail. So this provided information down the track further than what we knew before. And that's what the significance of the site that left alone is very precise. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. I've got this picture just to show a library. This is a library that you go to. The top row is the books on astronomy, the second one at the bottom row, the second row from the top books on chemistry, the next row is some literature, next one is history, down, down, down to get to the bottom row, and there are storybooks for children. That's a library. We value our library. It's got everything you want to know up to date. There'll be more in the future, if more study, more considered. But that's an example of a library that is caters for children, adults, professionals, and it's a resource, and we value that. Now, I'm taking the trip to say that geology and the preservation of geoheritage is effectively preserving the library of the earth. It's not in book form, it's in a rock form, that if you know how to read it, you know the alphabet, you can interpret the earth and read a story. Next slide. Now, the last one for the Geo-heritage principles. This is a technique on how my colleague and I determine how significant something is. The top row is international significance. It's one or a few of, best example of a given feature geologically becomes geologically significant. And there's some examples there of what is geologically significant at the international level. The next row down is national significance. So there's a number around the world. It's the best of, one of, a few of this particular feature in the nation. And there's some examples there. I don't know if you know about the Britain, but Warren Buffett, and we said, well, that's an example of national significance. The next row is regional or statewide significance, where it's present around the world, but it's the best of, one of, a few of a given feature geologically in the regional state. And the last is local significance. It's everywhere. It's of significance to you in the local area, in fact, local school kids, high school kids, and university students, see things. And this is the way we assess semi-quantitatively the significance of a given feature, local feature. Next slide. Right, now we start with the algebra. In 2009, 2008, I wrote a workshop here for the EPA bodies. And in 2009, they asked me to do a report on the geo-heritage values and wetlands of this area. That's the title of the report, published in 2009, informally published in 2009. And it dealt with the geo-heritage of this area. I've been studying this area since 1976, and I've drilled it, analysed it, and published major works on it scientifically. And they wanted to see what we're about, so this is a report. Next slide. This is a diagram showing a map of the Rockingham-Becher Plain. You can see where Rockingham is. This is a cuspate foreland. Cuspate is shaped like a shark's tooth. Punches out of the sea, and it's made up of beach ridges. As the coast is moving from the right to the left, so from east to the west, it's creating ridges. In this case, every 50 years there's another sand ridge form. The middle part of the slide, the horizontal part, shows you the internal structure of this plain, and the lowest part shows you the detailed soil features and their structures in that cross-section profile. The top part of the slide shows you the beach ridges, and you can see that there's they form a parallelism to the shape of the coast. So as the coast, watch my hands, as the coast moves out like a tooth, it forms beach ridges. You end up with this series of V-shaped ridges that are marked on maps and on aerial photographs as lines. As the coast erodes or changes, they get truncated and there's further depression. So that particular pattern you'll see later in the rocks we're going to see here with the diagram. Next slide. Let's just speed up. This is the Arbor Plain. See where the Enduro, see where the bumper is, and this is a plain that's got 3 different landforms in it. It's formed from about 500,000 years ago up to 100,000 years ago. Created. Next slide. And internally to it, this is the internal structure of these stratigraphy. The types of limestone, not just one type of limestone, but many types of limestone are represented in different environments. And what I've got here in the bottom right-hand corner is the Coorong barrier, which is present in there about 500,000 years ago. Next slide. These are the patterns on the ground of the beach ridges. And the same, these are Pleistocene, they're 500,000 to 100,000 years ago, but they're parallel to or similar to the ridges in Singapore. Next slide. This is how the coast evolved. We started off with a curved line of coast, then it accreted, and then there was a sea level drop with glaciation, then it accreted some more. It accreted, then the sea level dropped because of glaciation. Sea came back up, the melting of the ice, next layer formed, and it accreted. You have glaciation, non-glaciation, glaciation, non-glaciation. During the non-glaciated time, sea level is high, and we get the coast accreting. And when the sea level is low, we have the arid time, we have erosion. So that's how the coast accreted. So you've got three separate units. Next slide. And this is it, what I just said. On the right-hand side, you can see the progressive accretion of the coast with the glacial and glacial periods. Next slide. And the final, the details of the soil sequences within the limestones using the shell show changes that are occurring across the sequence. And the bottom right looks like the black and white, a little more into the sand side of the animals that are climate indicators. Next slide. And there, across the plain, using the 4 M's, we see changes in climate. Now, I think this is the last slide. Next slide. It says thank you. What this area shows is climate changes, sea level changes, historical development of the coast, and it's a globally unique area. Nowhere else in the world is something like this. It's a storybook, it's a library of what's happening in this part of the world, and it's globally unique. And it provides answers to sea level changes, climate changes, faunal changes, and it's our history. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, interesting presentation. I just wondered, where do we get limestone from if we're going to use it? We don't get it from the slate.
You must speak for your land use.
Well, I'm asking you, where are the significant areas where we would keep limestone, where areas where we want to be utilised?
You want to be in a situation where the lime is diamond dust, where it's common, where it's not a unique number like that. Limestone is unique, globally unique, it's not just Australian. If you go to Spearwood, where the limestone is very common, and it goes all the way from Shark Bay to Spearwood, you've got all that limestone. That's a common limestone. The second thing is you want limestone that's high above the water table, so that you can mine it in parts and leave stuff. If you've got lots of it above the water table and lots of it along the length now, the Tarnal limestone, which goes from Spearwood all the way through to Shark Bay, is a ubiquitous, common garden variety of limestone. It can be quarried in local areas, but this stuff is close to the water table, and secondly, it's got that unique story of what's happening in this part of the world.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Shire councillors and officers. Thank you for giving me the time to speak with you regarding this proposal. My name is Harvey and I represent the Bidding Up community and the community action group that was formed to oppose this proposal. We apologise firstly for forcing you into less comfortable surroundings than what you're used to and the resulting technical difficulties. I think the question I've heard the most over the last few weeks from the Bidding Up residents is why here? So it's been a prevailing thought in our minds since we found out about this proposal. So I want to make our position clear from the outset. The community of Bidding Up are not against mining, we're not against quarrying, we're not against any form of progress, and we're not against private enterprise. We are simply saying no to the limestone quarry being in this location. It's a location that's on the front doorstep of our beautiful little town. The location of the proposed quarry is grossly inappropriate considering its proximity to the town site and the future development of Bidding Up. There's an entire coastal shelf of limestone available, as evidenced by the fact that there are already a substantial number of active limestone extraction quarries with extended licenses within this shire. We live in Binga because we chose to live there. We did not choose to live next door to a pit. You can relocate the location of this proposal, but you can't relocate our town. The applicant in his proposal admits that there are other places, there are other locations that limestone suitable for road base could be extracted. In fact, we're aware the Carboni brothers already has a 130 hectare sand and road-based grade limestone quarry extraction pit, within the Mile State Forest. He's supplying 1.5 million cubic metres of limestone worth $2 million in government royalties. So why does limestone need to be removed from our location at all? We would suggest that the reason is that it reduces cartage costs from the current active limestone extraction quarries or from other potential locations, and therefore allows the applicant to substantially undercut the value of the contract and tender submissions when trying to bargain and win government projects like Bunbury-Outer Ring Road. We accept the Bunbury-Outer Ring Road will require large amounts of limestone, but the applicant and the Shire have that in Mila and this Shire and surrounds already. Which means that this proposal is about one thing only. It's about the private profit and sheer greed of one company over the expense of our community. In researching this matter, I read a book about the history of Binga. It turns out our community was founded as the beachside holiday location for the original settlers and the families of Harvey. And that's what we still have in Binga. We have a clean, safe, quiet community in a stunning location, a beachside location, that is actually the jewel of the Shire of Harvey. I think that those people that created this town from Harvey would be horrified to know that someone wants to turn it into an ugly, noisy scar full of dusty trucks. You've heard from the other speakers about our concerns for the environment and the geo-heritage impacts that this quarry will have. I'd like to speak to you about the concerns the community have around dust and silica pollution, noise pollution, our amenity, the visual impact, our property value and tourism. The residents of Binga are concerned about silica dust and silicosis. In fact, the federal government is so concerned about the effects of silica dust, they poured $5 million into a research study about its effects. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus crisis, the report's not available as the staff haven't been able to travel to do their research. But does that not put an obligation on you as the Shire to await the outcome of that research before approving a quarry this close to our town? Silicosis and silica dust-related lung cancer will be the new asbestosis and mesothelioma, and Binga does not want to be the next one. The Council estimates 230 people develop lung cancer a year as a result of the inhalation of silica dust particles. We're not willing to accept the risk that we will be the next victims, particularly in a community with such a high proportion of elderly residents. Any exposure is enough to lead to lung cancer, or at the very least, irritate and worsen the current respiratory conditions of some of our most vulnerable residents. Our community has a prevailing easterly and southeasterly wind in the summertime. I can assure you from personal experience, it blows constantly. The location of the proposed quarry is to our southeast. Therefore, it can be reasonably expected that those microparticles will travel in our direction. As a microparticle, silica dust will be able to bloom much further than expected from the quarry, particularly when crushing is taking place, and we're directly in the firing line. I've read the agenda briefing document, and what I find perplexing is the lack of science-based evidence to support conclusions, coupled with a willingness to believe whatever the applicant states within their proposal. The agenda briefing contains nothing but opinion and a distinct lack of empirical data and scientific method, and I say that as a former scientist myself. We do not accept, nor do we trust, any computer-generated risk assessment produced by a consultant under the employ of the applicant. The potential for bias and misrepresentation is enormous. The Shire, in its briefing document, expects the residents to provide evidence to validate our concerns. Surely it is the Shire's duty to have the applicant fund the required scientific research to conclusively show that there is no risk to our community. It might be acceptable to the applicant that there is a low risk to our community, but what if they're wrong? Because we won't find out for years to come. We're the people who live there. We don't accept any risk. We don't accept the risk to our families or our children. We don't accept the risk to those with chronic health or respiratory issues that this quarry may cause or worsen. We don't accept any risk to our elderly retirees. We've already given a lifetime of service to our community, all our communities. Now that's just silica, but what about the dust? As well as the threat of silica dust, we'll have our houses and health coated in dust because of that prevailing wind. We believe that everyone on both sides of this argument acknowledges that the applicant's estimation of 8 trucks a day will be manifestly inadequate. We've spoken to people in the industry that mock that statement and have been advised of private conversations involving the applicant where even the applicant has acknowledged the figure is a farce. Every extra truck on that road is another vehicle raising dust into prevailing easterly wind, sending it straight into our community at a time of the year when we're all outside trying to enjoy ourselves. The prevailing easterly wind will also carry noise regardless of any bunding the applicant proposes. In fact, we just recently conducted our own experiment and we can already hear the noise of a crusher, a conveyor belt and 2 D9 bulldozers from 800 metres away with the wind blowing towards the quarry. Despite the high bunding that has already in place and the fact that the existing site is now in a holiday. Our beautiful seaside town relies heavily on tourism in the form of investment properties, short-term holiday accommodation such as Airbnb and caravans. No one's going to want to visit us. No one's going to want to invest in our town when all they have to look forward to on the way in is an ugly limestone pit full of trucks and industrial machinery. Why would anyone want to come there? Our property values will plummet because no one will want to buy property. There's vacant lots everywhere, just waiting to be snapped up. No one's going to want to develop or create business opportunities here. Why are they going to put their health and their health for their children at risk to come to Binningham? The amenity of the area is at risk and therefore tourism investment and land value will take a dive. The applicant may claim they can mitigate dust and noise, and they may claim that they can regenerate the area when they're finished with it. But even if you believe that, what the applicant can't mitigate against is the potential plunge in our property value, the disastrous impact on tourism, both current and future, the potential impact on the physical and mental health of our community. It's our firm belief that this proposal prioritises short-term private financial gain over the long-term health, safety and amenity of our communities. The agenda briefing document clearly states that the approval of this proposal provides no benefit to the Shire or the community. So if the community doesn't want it, then why would the Shire approve it? Even if we agreed with the conclusions made by the planning officer in the briefing document, we as a community would still be here telling you that we do not support this proposal. We don't want it here. Are you willing to put us at risk and ruin our peaceful amenity for the reward of a private company? As a community, we presented a strategic, dignified and united front. But I can tell you that our community is outraged by this proposal. We're emotional, we're angry, we're upset, and I think most of all, we're frightened. Should you vote for this proposal, should you vote for it to go ahead, we won't go away. We will fight this proposal every step of the way and in whatever fashion we can to prevent this licence being granted and this pit going ahead. You've received an unprecedented number of objections from our community to this proposal, over 350 objections in 2 weeks, as well as a petition that's been presented today to Parliament containing 700 signatures. There's only 780 residential lots in Vinegar, including those that are vacant or holiday homes. What that tells you is that we have an overwhelming majority of residents against this proposal. This is not about Harvey, Brunswick, or Leichenall, or anywhere else in this shire. It's about Vinegar. It's about our community, and we're asking you to protect our way of life. You are the elected officials representing the voice of this community. We are that community, and we say no. Show us that you hear us. We ask that you vote with your conscience and with the will of the people that you're meant to represent. There's strength in our unity, so we exhort you, please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you for a very strong presentation. I don't think for 1 second that I don't agree with the community feeling, and I have sympathy. But were I to play the devil's advocate, would you be able to defend your attitude against an accusation of NIMBY not in my backyard? Follow what you get.
Yeah, I understand that, but as I said at the start, what our position is, not here. There's plenty of other places where you can grab limestone from, even road-based limestone. The applicant in his proposal and in your agenda briefing document says that although this is one of the few locations, it admits that there are other locations. We don't want it, and you don't have to allow it to be there.
Thanks, Gary. And can I thank everyone for coming out today and the way it's been conducted, and thank you to our speakers. First of all, move that financial remove starting development report, item 5.3.1, application for development approval and extract industry license application. We'll discuss the fitting up pits. Yeah. Okay, well, moving on. So we'll discuss on 5.3.1 the application of approval and extracted industry license application. Any questions? Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Back again. I just have one question. As a fairly new councillor, I understand that the Shire is not always the governing authority in some of these matters. And so I just wonder if we were to refuse the application as presented from the proponent, is there a higher authority that could overturn our decision? And if so, are there potential costs to our Shire and ratepayers in the long run? So is our decision final?
Okay, so very simply put, yes, the determination by council, if refused, you go to the state ministry. Now, in all situations, the tribunal needs to deal with the reasons for approval or the reasons for refusal. So they need to be based on planning grounds. If a decision was not made on planning grounds, there is a likelihood we have to seek costs for that process. Generally, it's an award free costs. That's not a it's not a level of administration that likes to cover costs. I don't think I've actually needed to have, but there is an opportunity. So we do need to be mindful of making decisions. The less planning framework that gets involved in the decision, the harder it is to defend the
Councillor Adams.
Question, I think, first up. At this point, and in the briefing, am I able to make or ask for a slight amendment to the recommendation? Is that appropriate at this point?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
I said, is the agenda briefing an appropriate time to ask if I may ask for a small adjustment to the recommendation?
I think that was no to be done for the council.
It's not appropriate. Okay.
Councillor
There's
Lee.
no time scale to do it. So,
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got a few questions which I did submit earlier to the planning officer, so I'm assuming done the research and have the answers ready available without taking up too much time. Firstly, it appears that one residence is within 680 metres of the subject site. Where's the next nearest property to that? Or are they in a cluster?
through Mr. Chair, it's fair to say that it's pretty gentle, as that is the first resident within the town site.
Thank you. The applicant has provided numerous supporting documents, e.g. noise, dust, risk assessment, we've heard about those this evening. Has the validity of the conclusions of those reports been tested or reviewed?
Again, through Mr. Chair, that's always council one of the most difficult components of assessing. The component has prepared through independent consultants a series of reports. The first set of documents we got, we were happy with, and they were referred out, and they've now come back and modified forward as now presented in the application itself. So we don't just take them on face value, we do require them to be verified. These latest ones have not been referred back out to state agencies. You get yourself a bit of sleep doing that, but they have been assessed by showing officers and form part of the recommendation.
Thank you. The majority of the letters that I read in the documents, and letters that have been sent to me personally or email,
that are in opposition to the proposal. A lot of them refer to potential dust problems. We heard from Gareth just earlier about the dust and some potential for silica. Are there any letters or anecdotal reports that dust is already a problem in getting up, blowing in from the beach, off the sand dunes, and the white sand from the agricultural activities east of Birmingham?
Again, through the chair, I believe that is correct. Yes.
Thank you. You've had one question on SAT. Mine goes a little differently to that. If council doesn't support this application, it will in all likelihood go to the SAT and could very well be possibly supported just purely on planning grounds. How many SAT hearings has council lost when the elected members did not support the officer's recommendation? And what has been the cost of defending those actions?
Again, through Mr. Chair, the most relevant one whereby there was a decision went against the officer's recommendation was a similar land use up in Colville as well. That particular application could have cost us in the order of $70,000. It costs in the order of about 20. The reason it costs that reduced amount is that the tribunal very clearly made its position known that it was an undefended decision. Because of the report being one of support from officers, should an alternative recommendation be supported, the terminology is hostile. The Shire officers become unable to defend that position in the tribunal with a degree of independence. So the Shire would actually need to engage external consultants. And in that particular instance, the external consultants, and we saw quotes and tenders from about 5 on each individual item as concerned, couldn't conclude anything other than what the Shire officers recommended. So for that reason, the tribunal was very clear with regard to an undefended decision. So it didn't cost us that for.
Thank you. The cross-section on page 171 of the attachment shows a local Benningham resident from 4 meters APH. Is this the residence that's located 680 meters from the?
Mr. Chairman, Councillor, I couldn't confirm exactly which one that was, but we did check out the contour maps. There are a number of houses within that close proximity at that height. More appropriately, we have actually requested the proponent to clarify.
Thank you. Question was raised, again, I couldn't give an answer. Does this application have anything to do with the Camerton Brine water pipeline to be built along Field Road?
Absolutely not.
Or to do with the wall?
Or to do with the wall?
No.
Look, I believe that the material is actually designed for
I do remember one. Is staff aware of any approaches being made to the landowners, pastoral company, by those that are opposed to this particular development to withdraw the support for the land being used further discussing?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of any approaches to that.
Okay. And this one's out of left field, Mr. Hall. Sorry about that. If in this scenario the council refuses this application and should SAT refuse the application, is it true that under the Main Roads Western Australia Act, they can actually take this material regardless?
Through Mr. Chair, if it's refused, it can go to trial. That is a completely separate process to Main Roads forcibly acquiring material for state projects. I have not been involved in any application that has involved that process. I'm not actually involved. I'm not involved on whether they could or will do that.
What I will say is that all our discussions with the board team that we have had to date, there is a cap on the amount of materials that main roads is allowed to provide themselves. Now let's extend that discussion and say either supply themselves or forcibly acquire for their purpose. The remainder of the material must be provided by private industry. Now those volumes I'm not sure what they are, but I do know is that main roads have a substantial amount, and this material, all the other materials that are being offered up for being available, comprises the other component of the
Councillor Roland.
Thank you, Mr. President. To you, Mr. Paul, I take it from the conversation that if we were to refuse this proposal, the likelihood would be that SAC would then approve this, which would mean that this council would be in a position that we couldn't offer the equivalent protection we could if we approved it ourselves. Is that correct?
Through Mr. Chair, I think that's a very, not loaded question, it's a question that has to be really guarded in regards to this response. If the application is refused, I'll come back to that. I have said in the community meetings previously, the application is capable of being approved. The officer's report says that. It's capable of being approved because, in the opinion of referral agencies, and yes, in the opinion of council officers, the offsite impacts can be managed to an acceptable level. Definition of acceptable level is going to vary from every single person in this range. So, for a refusal to be granted, that's where it really needs to lie. That the council doesn't consider those offsite impacts to be managed. It would then be the role of the tribunal, who is also the other ones on the planning program, and the same state legislations, as in the words of offsite emissions. They then need to be satisfied that through that process they can deliver something that is better or comparable, works in regard to that protection of offsite. And site staff, through consultants, program, would be going in very, very hard to ensure that those offsite impacts are managed to acceptable. It is not the case that roll over, try to do it. That's not happening.
Councillor Tom.
Thanks, Mr. President. Just one more, sorry, Mr. Wood. If the lodges that are within the buffer zone, for any reason, and I mean, we're talking 5 years, things can change in 9. If for any reason that they want to withdraw their support, what are the ramifications because they're directly in that buffer zone? What are the ramifications if that pit is approved?
Through Mr. Chair, for those that have actually read the management plans and the risk matrix that was presented through advertising and now it's presented to council. Firstly, the risk matrix that was provided by the proponent of the application excluded what they said because they're a supporting landowner, they're not required to be included in the risk matrix. They must be included in the risk matrix, and they have now been included in it, and it's gone from a low category to a medium category. Now, what that means is that there is different reporting monitoring regime. As it relates specifically to that house, the medium monitoring requirement means that there needs to be a minimum risk requires the monitoring noise class beyond 2 classes. They have elected to support it, and that condition is therefore one that wouldn't be enforced because they don't want it to be enforced. At any time they withdraw or change of ownership, whatever happens, that condition is now enforceable. It doesn't invalidate the approval, it doesn't take it away. what it means is that whoever is residing there, or lodges themselves, because they no longer support it, they will want, we have to provide compliance with that monitoring regime. The outcome of that might be the pig can't operate as before, it might be evening, it may not be possible to operate. So the very change in their support isn't an automatic, it just means monitoring compliance requirements for management plans needs to be used.
There was mention of Springfield.
Can you, sorry, you speak in Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There was mention of the Springfield homestead in the presentation. I'm interested to find this as the Springfield homestead private cemeteries included in Shires and Heritage inventory. The applicant has advised that the condition report associated with Springfield homestead will be undertaken as part of the private agreement of the land. I have made a note to explain what that paragraph means and will that address the issues that was raised by
Through the chair. Sorry, on that before. What it means is that the owners, as a harvest supporting owner, have entered into a private agreement which requires a condition report. Now, the condition report actually says prior to construction of activity that the house has cracks, has this, has that. So it's a full audit of the structural integrity of that particular premise. Throughout the course of the extraction, it's our understanding that the periodic checks, at the end of it, there will be a final audit report that needs to be done. Any changes to that, the condition, it's our understanding that the client will need to go around and follow. Now that sits outside the development site during the property, so we can't actually ask that as a condition. I can't force A&R to do something. It was, however, a requirement that staff requested right from that, because it's on a discriminatory, it does have significance, and it's the right thing to do to make sure that whatever happens doesn't happen. Does it please the comments earlier? I'm not sure, but it's the best we can do.
Thank you. Other questions that was raised from the perspective. In relation to coastal communication, basically, proceeds. If we look at that, take a scenario to its conclusion, if refusal on the basis that it's a floodplain area and that stage it's going to ultimately create damage, does that have implications for other extractive industry sites within the area, or is this particular site unique?
Through the chair. The Shires Tune-up, now that tune-up was an assessment of the shoreline risk associated with climate change. It did indicate that the sections within our coastline, beyond the seawall, are actually at high risk. What it also identified was that over a long period of time, rising sea level comes with it rising ground level. And we're assuming that in 100 years' time, the level potential is still there. We're also assuming that there is going to be rise, and that behind the back of that peninsula and up apart from the drain, there could be a high degree of water. At present, the physiologists analysis that the Department of Water, the Geological Council is doing, and in fact, we're actually just initiated, we actually got confirmation of funding this morning about another treatment that we're doing with regard to inland waterways and international. So we're very, very, very well aware of it. This isn't a unique site as far as its potential risk for inundation. And by removing 4 to 5 metres of it, isn't placing any other asset at risk, including private property at risk, if you're elected to do so. The risk that we need to manage is the height of Bingham Road and the fact that it doesn't go further inundate farmland to the north of that. The ability to actually mitigate inundation and flooding south of Bingham Road is compromised already. We are looking at buffer roads, being a further buffer. But the extraction of this one is not likely to have any impact on the recommendations of that.
So, just one more. In relation to trying to come to terms with the decisions that need to be made, community expectations as opposed to requirements for due planning processes. The shared industry is used mainly considered by the local government and the general farms. The report indicates that it could be determined or obsolete. And basically, my question is, are we as a council able to make an informed determination on the merits of this item based on the use that may be considered under the general farms? Is that basically why we're making these decisions as opposed to
Mr. Chair, I summarise that in 2 parts of that question. First, is it a use that can be considered based on planning merits? Planning merits are provided for in the balance approach according to the state. You have the technical planning framework requirements, and you've got the technical reports to support anyway. As far as it was in front of council, staff of delegation, sometimes you choose not to exercise. And in a situation where there are very valid and reasonable concerns for the community, it's best that they come to this forum and have the opportunity to discuss it directly with themselves.
Councillor Adams.
Just to clarify for me, were we to knock this application back and it went to SAC and we got, or SAC said yes, go ahead. The recommendations that we've got down here, is there any likelihood that SAC would attempt to change any of these recommendations? We would insist, I guess, that they go. So, how does that go as far as these conditions? Would you anticipate that if SAC said that this application is to go ahead, it could still stick to these conditions? Is that a rumble too much?
Through Mr. Chair, I think the appellate would see the condition of approval as being stated. So I would say that that would be on the table at the tribunal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Hall, how many limestone extractor pits are currently operating in the Shire? And what is the main complaint that the Shire gets regarding those operational pits?
So where it first Mr. Chair, and look, our records show that there's 10 active limestone pits along the Swan Coast Plain. There has been in the past a total of 16 operating. As far as complaints are concerned, I must say we actually don't get very many complaints from what we have. I will answer that. I know it's of course, but if you notice that the application, you notice that this report has a file at the end of it, as I said. This is the seventh application on this particular site. In fact, there's another one after this one, which was removed the stockpile. So, yes, they are very close to residents. And to date, we've not received any. It's not to say that they're not causing any impact. We've just not received any form of complaints. We, however, on an annual basis, undertake compliance reports. When it comes to limestone, because of the very grade through wet areas and road base, we tend to find that there is a much bigger footprint operating than there has been. Notice this was a 7-stage application. Many times, stage 4 or 5 are operating than it should be, but it's because they're chasing a particular vein of limestone. The other thing is pit depths. So pit depths and pit footprint are the general complaints that we have as officers with the operators. But I must say we don't get any complaints from them.
Thanks, Mr. Moore. Don't sit down for another question. Should this application be approved, how does a community member meeting up submit to the complaint? How is that process and what's the Shire's involvement with addressing that complaint?
If it's approved, whether it's from here or the management plans that are included in the application, let's make that clear. When we're meeting with the community recently, those management plans have been accepted. And historically, the management plans are a condition of approval and they don't get seen by anybody else other than by staff. In this particular case, we have all the management plans up front and form the heart of the approval, which means if there is unacceptable noise, unacceptable dust, then complaints can be made, preferably in writing. The current management plans require those complaints to be lodged with the pit operator, and I would suggest if that's done, it's always coming to us, so that we've got awareness, or vice versa, if they come to us, the pit manager is not aware of it. Because they're conditions of approval, any breach of those management plans is a breach of the plan development. So the Shire has a legal obligation to enforce compliance with those management plans. That means we require a requirement to address the complaint. Noise, they want to test it, dust, suppress it. We don't do the testing. They do the testing, and the relevant agencies responsible for those issues is the one that will be declaring for as to whether they comply with that.
One last question, please, Mr. President. In condition M, it says the applicant shall engage a suitably qualified independent expert to carry out the annual audit of compliance. So how can we, as the Shire, ensure that the applicant engages a suitably qualified independent expert to carry out an assessment?
To be perfectly honest, not all our pits, but the majority of our pits, the independent consultant that provides that compliance report is generally the applicant. The reason for that is that they have an awareness of what the original application was trying to see. They worked with Shire staff to obtain a track entry license before they could actually operate. Them submitting it to us doesn't mean that they have to work themselves. There's independent surveyors, there are independent consultants, there's a whole range of different things that they actually provide to us. So they're basically the coordinator of those other consultants that put that report together with us. There are pits that we don't accept that have a high degree of risk. We have turned them away and said, you're too close to this. They were too close to it because most of the actual independent reports that form part of that overall compliance we need to have much higher level of defence.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. No more questions. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've been told that there's going to be dust monitoring, and that will be functioning 24 hours. And we'll wonder if they have too high reading, then they will have to address that straight away. Will
At present, that degree of monitoring for dust, because of the separation distance, is unlikely to occur. What it will be on a case-to-case basis. So if there is an incident that occurs, they will need to know that dust monitoring to where it comes from and what suppression requirements are there. It is unlikely that 24-hour dust monitoring will be of any value given the surrounding business that we're at. Having said that, everybody knows what the current dust regime or what the current situation is out there. If that changes, if it's improved pretty quickly, then there's a fair indication that there has to be a higher level of monitoring. If there's no noticeable difference in town, then it would be on a case-by-case basis.
I can ask another question in relation to that. So they will be looking at the weather, and if there's windy weather coming, they will be able to implement more monitoring. For example, driving along on the weekend, it was very windy and the dirt was blowing off the market gardens. And I do know that there's irrigation that they try and do to suppress the dust, but how is it going to be monitored and managed at this site?
Through Mr. Chair, so the management plans that have been presented to us do two things. They set a base level of best practice. So if we know that there's dry windy conditions coming through, it is incumbent upon them to actually do dust suppression. Water trucks, water guards, they need to actually do that. If they don't do that, that's when the next level of the management plan kicks in, which is to do monitoring and compliance work. So we are relying on them to adhere to their best practice provisions within their management plans that says they will manage that dust at all times.
Okay, no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Councillor Harvey.
There's no reason why
The wall memorial one, 20-194, it's explained as legal Harvey Street.
we also incorporating the hard settlement process?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Are we able to use microphone, please?
Councillor Rowe.
Apologies, Councillor Lynch.
That's okay.
The RSO has been consulted in regards to the utility side.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to move.
Um,
So, oh, no, it's got without moving. So it's happy.
Councillor Bergman is also going to contribute to the attachment to house legislation related to basic right and rights placed by as the problem and just
item 5.1.2, corporate business plan. Item 5.1.3, implementation of strategy. Councillor Simpson, please.
This is, I was just wondering, I don't want to encourage people on operational matters. I was just wondering about in the list of for this stretch group, is a stretch group. This seems to be breaking emphasis with the managers of the rec sector and manager of which rec sector. And I know that they both operate this business and have responsibility and actually strategy group. I was just moving down to this both having representing that separate chart. The possibility of incorporating other sectors, for example, library or grants or IT, who would also bring different perspectives as opposed to having both of the managers for the various sectors as sort of main forces from the reference in councils.
Well, thank you for that. The introduction of the two recommendations to managers was because they are involved in communication with all sections of the community, both in national and area and the Harvey area. So certainly to take points on board, and we can look to expand membership across staff. This is just a recommended group, but we can take that away and the consideration as a solution. I think that maybe the incorporation of the director of corporate services who is involved in particular areas of finance and IT who represent all of those groups and even if we have established members that doesn't mean that other members of the staff involved as part of that. We give that consideration and bring them to council.
5.2.1 proposed regional road improvement and expansion projects 2021 to 2022, 2024. Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Most of you CEO and staff for the advances to Harvey and the section. I know there's lots of facilities benefit from some of the residents' complaints that we've had over the last couple of years. One question that was brought to me by the public when they saw this was that what's to stop fact that we're changing one dog leg to another dog leg. So what are some of the controls that are in place to prevent just a change of position?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Well, through the chair, I guess, earlier. So at the moment, that's across the road. Sorry, let's say, and what we're proposing is to obviously bring down the road to the junction there. 85% of the traffic at the moment goes along the forestry river, and only a small portion, so 51 vehicles a day using from the river, and about 300 vehicles a day using sorry, forestry river. What we're looking at doing is looking at advanced warning signs and possible rumble strips, looking at the bottom where it goes low and speeding as on the approaches down the road. At the moment, Geological is 90 and forestry is 100. If you're looking at extending from 90 and possibly lower through here to a point where it gets off at 100, we're looking at a possible landscape treatment in that section of road at the moment, some landscape mountain, like that visual view there. Obviously, possibly something which statement arrangement. I mean, it's early days, we've got a conceptual design. Harvey really had a very land swap, so it's an opportunity to work with them, improve the section. The design is called Harvey, so 6 metre long here. So yeah, it's a good proposal, opportunity that we had initially discussed with because initially without having some land, we would have been playing in the woods but I wouldn't have put the times. Yeah, I think the typical loss is farming solutions and loss.
Councillor just a quick question on that. This one was the design. When you the new government road up in the south, Dolby's around coming to use that road, right opposite the intersections that large trench. I'm wondering if we're going to do something there to make sure that we're going to have parking.
This design will take it into account, and we still have to type that. We're going to type the sections that the road crosses, or we're going to keep the other portion open. Obviously, that's a discussion. We may have some bridges possible. But yeah, the design to minimize the amount of vegetation that we need to take out, and also the amount of chamber because part of that is quite expensive.
Yeah, got me in the microphone. Just that Travellers Drive on 3 occasions has been noted as Traverse Drive. Is the only end on the 3 tables. Fix that up.
Thank you. Questions about item 5.2.2, beginning up giving garden proposal. Next question from the query. Have any questions? Item 5.3.2, traffic plan amendment number 2, $20 an hour. Councillor Gabriel.
In relation to the bum wall, is the removal of bum wall and replacement with a wall allowing for more development from here? Is there a higher level with that change?
Through Mr. Chair, the bum wall will allow for more residential active by virtue of the footprint of the home.
Just in relation to business issues, this discussion now, that main roads, state, with before, we've done to this before. I'm just wondering, is that because of the driver that has resulted in noise, continuation with the acoustic wall, or is that the way the system of practice there maintenance way runs to acoustic walls and attractive?
Through Mr. Chair, the existing residents that belong to Forest Island, or Kingston, have a bum wall, which is vegetated. That particular vegetation is required by line roads as an offset for their clearing and it's a possible habitat. So they are always aligned to actually reduce or undertake the clearing. To build a bund that was sufficiently high enough and was close enough to the rear of residents because of the flow obviously at ground level at the moment, you elevate the road to, you've got noise coming from above. So to get an effective wall one needs to be quite high to pick up that elevation. So to protect vegetation and to get a immediate effect from a much more steeper barrier, the wall was there's about 3 different designs on the wall. That particular wall is unlikely to be visible from the highway. And so it doesn't have a high visual impact. It was something that we did close to start.
Item 5.3.3, request for road name.
There we go. Just saying that on the fact that there is a move down within 50 k's. And the similar road names a lot closer than that, or exact same road names closer distance. I'm just wondering if the applicants are still in favour of this name and sure.
That's very good. I can't remember the response. I do believe it is still their preferred. It hasn't been the first pass as far as geographic names, their standards, potential response, future those boxes. I do have an answer. Just because it's met the first pass, it doesn't actually mean that it's hard actually to the second. So councils want it to be put that in there, they can actually retain it in there, and it would then be up to the planning council to justify the watch. But just because it missed that first pass, doesn't mean it's not. And having a discussion with them.
The applicants were happy to leave the ones that did pass the validation now, and go with the second option.
Corporate services, item number 5.4.1, listed accounts June 2020. Councillor Lee.
Thank you. Therefore, under the attachments, the credit card payment expense refers to a number of credit card expenses by the CUS in quite the Geological. Could a comment be made on these purchases, please? And one of these here, C50659 and 660 refer to regulatory funds. Why do we do that?
Thank you, Mr. President. So we do have some payments on the credit cards from our community services manager. It's only recent that he has had a corporate credit card, and we're still working through the process of the use of that card. Now, the nature of his work, he does a lot in relation to the weekend work and also work outside their shop. So it stands to reason that he would use that card for activities outside of the shop. That said, some of those transactions we would prefer to have purchased within the shire, and that information has been registered to him. So it really is a teething issue with him being issued with credit cards. That's basically the issue. In relation to the rates refunds, there's two inclusive of them. The ratepayer has been making fortnightly payments. They have a credit balance, and then they sold their property. And so, as part of the settlement, we refund those funds before the settlement actually took place. The second one, again, they were making fortnightly payments. They got well and truly refund and asked for a refund, and we will always do that. If there's a credit balance, and we do actually like to let them know what the credit balance is, and ask them if they would like to refund, which they would like to be taken in their account until the following.
Thank you.
I think Councillor Edgeworth had a question in relation to
Yeah, I did. I can't answer to that. Thanks, really, for getting back to so quickly. It was just in relation to the 2501313, the relocating street signs from the more 50 pole onto street lights and machining power poles. I have to might share the reason with the rest of us, because I know the answer.
Yeah, through the chair, it's responsible for different basically what we do, current question signs, there's a power
areas of government's pole and street sign. We can take the government's pole away and fix it in street sign with the pole. Just to get rid of proliferation of signs, also helps with convergence and whatnot, government as a whole and our whole. So it's just going to start off with Harvey, quotes, and we have with all of the signs that Council Beach mentioned. Obviously, the Brunswick is different signs, green, dark, blue, green, yellow, parts of Harvey's, which most of those is down.
Okay, 5.5, please financial statements about Council Secretary.
Thank you, Bruce. This is more for my information to understand. The Shire is extremely well in terms of the budget cycle, the budget, and it's very realistic. I've noticed that the budget in relation to the interest that we receive various trust funds. We seem to significantly overestimate what we're likely to receive. Now, for me, that seems to know in comparison with the rest of the budget process, which is so accurate. And I'm just wondering, from one predicted perspective, knowing what the interest rates are, having a fair idea of what balance sheet you're going to in sort of housing. I thought we would be able to more accurately predict what our interest rates would be, or is this something, is there a longer predetermined description which you've got to use is for methodology?
Thank you for that question, Mr. President. There has been a change in relation to the balances that we hold in our trust fund. Over the last couple of years, in fact, the last financial year, we had the Office of Rural General place probably about 8% of our trust monies needed to be retained in the trust fund. And then 2 weeks later, they came out and said that they've changed their determination. 8% of their trust funds need to be transferred to our municipal fund. And in relation to that, there's been a change in the monies that we now have in the trust fund. So you would have recognised that we had $500,000 that we transferred from the trust fund to the municipal fund. And that was purely just interest that we have been holding in the trust fund. So the council now receive that by income. And there is also now 2 lots of trust. There's a municipal trust and a trust as we refer to it. Trust was originally bonds. Those bonds now form part of the municipal fund as well. So it's a bit of a mismatch, all as a result of the Office of the General making some irregular determinations as to what we have control over. The result of that is we've over budgeted for interest in our trust fund and under budgeted in our municipal fund, purely between those two.
Questions? 5.4.3 is not of summary method. Request for breaks exemption. Councillor Cameron.
Thanks, Mr. President.
I see this as another cost shifting exercise by the government, and so I'm just asking, are they going to apply for this annually, or once we've given this exemption, does that carry on?
So with the recommendation of this item, council will determine if they are charitable in accordance with the Act. In so doing, we make a change to the rate pool, which doesn't require them to make application of them. We actually require them then to tell us if the conditions of that property change. So it should only be one step comes to council.
Community and lifestyle, item number 5.5.1, community sporting and recreation facilities fund. Councillor Simpson.
Sorry, but from my reading, I want to understand that basically the total application is 350,000 for the drainage work. I think makes sense that is there then the requirement for another 350,000 to be expended to then be expended to complete the process? And if that is the case, are the two dependent upon each other? And if not, what is the time frame that what we'll be looking at for the second phase of the program?
Actually, Chair, we'll actually plan we'll modify. Now that we're going to the last plan, we're actually modify the plans as well. We'll come up with a little bit, which is a little bit, and that's something I want to discuss. Because that's not a perfect as a figure that we have prior estimate. I just thought this afternoon. So maybe now when we go back, we may have to just have a look at that, to see exactly how much money we need. It's less than what's around. Does that answer the question?
I'm just wondering, well, one of the things we've got to think about, and we've received that will complete part of the process, I believe. But do we actually need to then progress to the next step of the second phase to actually ensure that what we do with the first step is actually going to be successful? So you talk the drainage.
I know one understanding is those you really have to wait to be actually see the economy as a whole project. We spend some money.
Councillor Simpson, this project is for the northern side of the river, and that's the only drainage project that we're proposing on the irrigation grounds. So this project will total 330 will be the application in total for the drainage project. The one we just established on this on the southern side.
Yeah, that's correct. Councillor, it's all on the northern side. It's looking like lines. Is that the main drainage lines that lead from the area to substantial? And we're looking at splitting that catchment. Some of them in Hill Street, some of them in West. So also the main lines are extend
extending the social range. So it's sort of one approach. We could do the main line, and that's what we've got now. That is what we're doing.
Councillor Simpson, is there something that you're ready to report? Maybe I haven't picked up on.
No, sorry, just you mentioned this team work. And then the second stage. Do you need one until we've got the money in the second stage? As a whole project, will we be able to progress with that first stage? Yeah, we're
Any other on 5.2, tourism and development strategy.
It's only to do with the membership. I'm just going to ask the CEO if you could consider the project officer in the membership of that committee, since she's involved in the workshop and also Harvey, so they're quite linked to tourist projects in the Shire.
Yes.
So we're going to consider that.
Any other questions? On 5.3, youth strategy. Item 5.4, tourist information days and signage strategy. Any questions? Okay. Item 6, elected members' rights to various data that have been given. Item 7, matters behind those rules are given.
Mr. President, before we close, I'll just be one minute for next meeting. With the deputations and that we've done here tonight, I could sit out there and watch it on my phone. So we sat there for an hour, President asked if I could watch it all on my phone. So what's the point of leaving the meeting for us leaving the meeting?
Well, essentially, you know, we guarantee you not to watch it.
Well, I mean, I can go home now and watch it. You know, what's the point? It's public, it's public.
That's right.
So you're quite happy for me to watch, even though I don't tell you, you're quite happy for me to see everything that goes on.
That's entirely up to you.
All right, that's fine.
You're responsible for your own actions.
Well, if you're putting it out to the public, it's in the public domain, well, naturally people are going to watch it. That's all it will. Yeah, they probably shouldn't be watching. I'll leave it at that, that's all. Yeah, just put it out. All right. Yeah, you've got to put that good. All right, let's go.
At the end of the day, or in kind of, okay, close the meeting. Thank you.